Welcome to the Kapital News. I'm your host, Alex Karitis. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining me. Title of today's podcast, Debate Number 1, A National Disgrace. Now, this is just a little disclaimer before we get started here. I may use some harsher profanity in today's episode. Okay? I really don't want to, but I think there are some aspects of today's national disgrace that you got to use some of these words to really encapsulate the essence of what was witnessed today before not only the American people, but in front of the entire world. Okay? If you don't like it, I don't care. You can change the channel. Okay? This wasn't a debate. This was a national disgrace. This was a shit show. All right? That's what this was. I said to this audience time after time for I don't know how long now, that this was going to be a national disgrace. This is worse than what I thought was going to happen. I thought there was going to be gaffes. I thought there was going to be misstatements, run-on sentences, incomplete thoughts, all that stuff. And of course, we witnessed that this evening, but I thought that was going to be, pretty much the gist, the theme of tonight's performance from both of them. Oh no, it was much worse than that. As I stated yesterday, I was hoping to be pleasantly surprised because the bar was so low that I had set that I could only be pleasantly surprised. Well, it's worse. Much, much worse. Didn't even come close to jumping over that low bar that I had set for this first debate. Do you want 4 more years of this? Do you? I mean, of either side, to be perfectly honest, is this not the perfect real-world example of why you have to abandon the two-party system? This is a case study. This is real life. This was just performed in front of you. You're going to go vote for this again. Two-party system. We have somebody in the Libertarian Party. I'm sure most of you don't even want to hear it. Why wasn't she on the stage? Maybe she would have broke it up a little bit. Maybe that's what the country wants. Maybe that's what the country really needs. There's another voice up there, not the same old Republican talking points, not the same old Democratic talking points. Not this rage that was witnessed by the President of the United States. The interrupting, the disrespect. One point after the next. The whole thing, fortunately, was not like that, but a significant portion of it was. Moderator Chris Wallace, he lost control right out of the gate. Never really able to gain control or composure throughout the thing. Raising his voice, getting combative, especially with the president, because the president was more combative. Very interrupting. I mean, my goodness, could you imagine if I just brought somebody else down here into my studio to just talk over me for the first 15 minutes? I wonder how many people would be tuning in, would want to listen to that. Because that's what we heard in this national disgrace. No real talking of the issues, which is no surprise. I knew this was going to happen. I wanted to be proven wrong, as I'd like to be proven wrong on so many other aspects. But time and time again, we got a pretty good track record here, don't we? Those of you who have been with me for quite a while. On the economy, on the financial markets, on some political predictions. We're pretty good here. I don't have a magic ball. I have common sense. And I don't have an agenda to push the Republican talking points, the Democratic Party's talking points. My agenda is to shoot straight with this audience and to be as objective as I possibly can. Free market capitalism, peace and prosperity, the truth. That shouldn't be too difficult. But it is. It is, and it was on full display today. Most of those ideals and principles that we're supposed to hold dear as Americans, they weren't even discussed today. Nothing. Nothing. The Banana Republic printing press, of course, that wasn't discussed. Half the country's broke. Why would that be discussed? Why would Chris Wallace bring that up? Why would he ask them those questions? Tens of millions facing evictions once the moratoriums are lifted. Why wasn't that a question? Why didn't either one of them bring it up if the question wasn't asked? Oh, that's right, because they don't have a plan. They don't know what they're doing. That's just another moratorium. Just pick an arbitrary date and we'll go with it. Keep it going. What about the massive amount of bankruptcies and insolvencies and store closures and small business closures that we've already seen thus far this year? And how many more are waiting in the wings because, well, PPP loans are dried up. The $7 trillion that we printed out of nowhere, it's already gone. Does the debt matter? Do deficits matter? We're talking about another round of spending, another $2.5 trillion. Where are we going to get the money? Why do we need it? Mr. President, you say everything's coming back great. Why do we need it? Mr. Biden, what are we going to do with all that money? Where's it going to come from? How are we going to pay this off? No questions. No questions. No answers. None whatsoever. Obviously, the Supreme Court is up for grabs. That was a question for the life of me. I can't understand why Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris can answer this simple question. Do you intend, if you should win, to stack the Supreme Court? They can't answer the question. It's a simple no. We're not going to do that, but they can't answer it. Can't do it. I mean, these people lie to us every freaking day. Even if they have the intention of doing it, why can't they just say no? Then it would just be a lie like every other time. Once you're in power, screw it. I don't care what I said. I'm a hypocrite. Call me a hypocrite. I don't care. We're going to stack it. Just like the Republicans right now. It's an election year. There's a vacancy. The American people get to vote. They get to have the say. Well, no, not now. Not now. Hypocrites. They don't care. It's all about power. That's the two-party system. It's tearing this country apart. And you're going to go into the booth in a few weeks, and you're going to vote for more of it. How can you do this? What are you paying attention to? Obviously nothing. On full display, Bob Woodward's book, Rage, about the president, with the president on tape, not fake news, on the record, on tape. Talk about rage, we saw some of this on full display here by the president. The interruptions, the attacks, what have you. Now, some people might say, well, that's a strategy. That's what I like to see. That's what I want to hear. Well, shame on you. This country is divided. This type of action and rhetoric is not going to unite this country. Could you imagine? I mean, Donald Trump likes to compare himself to Abraham Lincoln. If you can believe it, well, you should, because the man's a narcissist. So, of course, he thinks, oh, yeah, I have to be like one of the greatest presidents ever in the history of the United States. Of course, I am like Abraham Lincoln. Can you imagine Abraham Lincoln acting like this? Country's about to go to civil war, which of course we did. Well, yeah, screw it. Go ahead. Do what you got to do. I don't care. It's the red states versus the blue states. I like the red states. Screw the blue states. Have at it. Do what you got to do. A house divided cannot stand. I don't care if it's divided. I don't care if it cannot stand. Would we have a country? Would we have a United States of America if that was the action and the rhetoric of Abraham Lincoln? No, of course not. Never would have made it. Never would have made it. He knew what needed to be done. Abraham Lincoln did. Save the country. Save the Union. And in the process, ended up getting assassinated for it. This president is a joke. It was on full display. And even to be fair to the president, he had some good retorts. He made some decent comments, some good arguments going after Joe Biden. But all of this is going to be drowned out in the noise. You know who's happy, of course, about tonight's performance, don't you? President Putin, President Erdogan, the Iranians, President Xi Jinping. Those are the people who are happy with tonight's performance. This was a national disgrace. Third-party candidate, anybody? You want another choice, or you just want to keep drinking the Kool-Aid? Coke and Pepsi, Coke and Pepsi, Coke and Pepsi. That's all. That's all. Blind taste test. Oh, I'm a Coke guy. Blind taste test. Oh, I like this one. That's Pepsi. Oh, but my guy said, oh, yeah. Oh, I can't figure it out. They pulled that one on me. Well, don't know how that happened. Don't know how that happened. Oh, I'm not surprised. Not surprised you can't figure it out. Flipping through the stations after the debate, of course, what an interesting sideshow that was between CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. I will give all three credit, though. They did call it a circus. They did call it a train wreck. Even Fox News. Some of them. Not Hannity, of course, and not Dan Bongino. They loved it. They thought this was brilliant strategy. Sean Hannity, he said, hey, you know what? This is the sign of the times. The country's divided. This is just the fact of the matter. This is what's going to happen. Oh, that's just the fact of the matter, is it, Mr. Hannity? Well, perhaps because we're so divided and you want to see a shit show, well, why don't we give these two demented idiots on the stage next time battle axes? And maybe they can decapitate each other and then we'll be down two idiots. How about that? Why not? It's gladiatorial. It's the circus. Country's divided. Just a matter of the fact of the time. These people are jokes. They're jokes. I told you. These people who make money continuing to divide this country. They make a lot of money. They're going to say what's on that teleprompter. They're going to continue to feed this fire. If Donald Trump told Sean Hannity to get on his knees, he's going to get on his knees. He tells him to bend over, he's going to bend over. Make no mistake about it. And he'll enjoy it. Because his ratings will probably go up. This isn't just an attack on Fox News and the president. This was done in the Obama years too with MSNBC. I go over this all the time. All the time. This is back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Can't figure it out. I don't know why they can't solve any damn problems. Can't figure it out. Red and blue. I mean, the Republican talking points. They have it solved, man. You just got to get with it. It's the Democrats, man. You just got to get with them. Go with the flow. Can't figure it out. $27 trillion in debt, not a question asked. $4 trillion deficit, no questions. Not even brought up. No concern. You don't want to pay the bills? You don't want to pay taxes? Hey, don't pay them. Don't pay them. Screw them. Country doesn't do it. Send them to Washington, D.C. Have them pay your bills. Have them pay your portion of the taxes you owe. One hit after the next. No control. Chris Wallace. I feel bad for the guy. I do, because I like Chris Wallace. I like him. Thought he was going to do a much better job than what he did. Maybe that was just the overpowering nature and force that is and was Donald Trump this evening. Couldn't control it. And of course, some of those actions undertaken by the president drew Vice President Biden into the muck as well. How could you possibly not? You can have your game plan to remain calm, cool, and collected and to do your best to look and act presidential. But when you have that type of attack coming after you, when it's interruption after interruption trying to throw you off your talking points and what your message is, you're going to end up reversing course at some point and interrupting and throwing attacks back yourself. And when the president wants to call your son out and say he was a cokehead, well, you're probably going to say something about that too. Especially when Joe Biden was talking about his other son, Beau Biden, who served in the military, was a Bronze Star recipient, and of course passed away a handful of years ago of brain cancer. And Trump's standing up there, what son? Which one you mean? Hunter? I know Hunter. I don't know Beau. I know Hunter. And he was a cokehead. You know who else was a cokehead? Larry Kudlow. Larry Kudlow, the president's chief economic advisor, sits a couple seats away from the president. I like Larry. He was a cokehead. He's in the White House. You see what's going on here? You put the pieces of the puzzle together? Or are you going to go vote for more of this? I know what you're going to do. You're going to go vote for more of this. I know what you're going to do. I know it. You're on your high mighty horse. You don't care. You're going to go vote for more of it. What's going to happen? And it doesn't matter who wins, folks. Doesn't matter who wins. It's going to get extremely nasty. Chris Wallace gave the President of the United States a softball question, handed it to him on a platter. Mr. President, will you condemn white supremacists? Can you do it? Can you do it? The Proud Boys, whatever group they want to call them. Can you do it? Can you condemn them? Well, stand back and stand by. What the hell does that mean? Stand back and stand by. Get your AK-47s ready, your M16s, your AR-15s. Get everything ready. Stand back. But if shit hits the fan and I lose this election, because the only way I can lose this election is if it's rigged, because that's how we do it here in the United States of America now. Stand back and stand by. If I lose, it's rigged. Come out. Blow everything up. Is that the message he's trying to send? Because what else could it possibly mean? Stand by for what? To come out and peacefully protest? I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. Mr. President, will you accept the results of the election if it's independently verified? No. Nope. Easiest questions to answer. Nope. Can't do it. Can't do it. It's going to be rigged. It's going to be rigged. It's going to be flush and riddled with nothing but fraud and corruption. That's all it's going to be. Can't trust it. Unless, of course, he wins. If he wins, then there's no fraud. There's no rigging. There's nothing. That's what was supposed to happen. So I guess the Proud Boys, if he wins, they can stand down. Right now, they're standing back and standing by. President loses? Look out. He wins? Stand down. Maybe. Peaceful transfer of power, which is what the president was asked before. Recent press conference. Can't even do that one. You know, my favorite president is George Washington because he set the standard on so many levels in this country because he was the first president of the United States. You know, after he served as the general of the Continental Army, he went back to Virginia because he just wanted to go back onto his farm. That's all the man wanted to do. But because of how popular he was for winning the Revolutionary War, for leading the Continental Army in this country, in being that face of the revolution to the country, everybody wanted him, including the Founding Fathers, go get him out of that farm, run for president, and of course he won and became the first president of the United States of America. In the Constitution of the United States, at that time, there were no term limits. There weren't any term limits. He served 2 terms, 2 full 4-year terms. And when he was done with the second term, he said, I am done. I want to go back to Virginia. I want to go back to my farm. Now, to many of you listening, that might say, well, that's nothing. I just want to go back to my farm. Do you know what that means in the context of history? For somebody to simply voluntarily give up an immense amount of power. Now, clearly, the presidency was not as powerful as it is today because the country wasn't as big as it is today. But it was still an important position. It was still a powerful position. And the man just gave it up. He showed us the way with class and character. We don't have any class or character in the White House today, and it ain't in Congress either. And it's on full display. And you're going to go back in and you're going to vote for these jokers again, and you're going to be scratching your head. What the hell happened? He set the standard. He went back. Peaceful transfer of power. His vice president, John Adams, became the second president of the United States. And people wondered, well, how is this going to happen? How is this power going to be transferred from Washington to Adams? How is this going to happen? Because throughout history, power is always taken. Somebody's poisoned, somebody's killed, somebody's assassinated, wars break out. Oh, good luck, John. Godspeed. God be with you. Peaceful transfer of power. That is what this country is about. And now we have a president of the United States who is given softball questions as easy as they can possibly come that represent some of the most basic and core principles and values of this country. Election integrity and peaceful transfer of power And he can't answer the damn question. I don't get it. How much more evidence do you need to see? Going back to Bob Woodward with his book entitled Rage. Because of that book, which I have not read, but I've watched many interviews, and this made me, I got interested in Bob Woodward, his history, and that of the Watergate scandal with President Nixon. Because in a lot of these interviews and discussions that Bob Woodward has had in relation to President Trump, he was able to draw a lot of parallels to President Nixon. Well, I was curious. I said, well, let's see how much of that's actually true, and let's go look into some of the Watergate stuff, some of the interviews back then, some of the interviews now of people who were there at the time in the administration, people who investigated, everything. The whole Watergate investigation, everything. I was just trying to get as much information as I possibly could. I am by no sense of the word an expert on this just because I listened to a handful of things on it, but enough to get the gist of what Mr. Woodward was saying when he is mentioning President Trump and President Nixon in the same sentence in drawing parallels. Because when you talk about President Nixon, he won massively in his re-election. Massively. It was a complete massacre in that election. But it was not enough. People are celebrating, high-fiving, hugging, kissing, excited that they just won the presidency. But for Richard Nixon, it wasn't enough. He turns to some of his closest advisors and says, now we're going to get them. That is the amount of rage and perhaps hatred that lived within President Nixon. And when you have an individual who has that type of rage or hatred within them, coupled with the immense responsibilities and power that they have at the tip of their fingertips serving as the President of the United States, that's something to be concerned about gravely. Gravely. And we know what happened with Mr. Nixon, don't we? We know what he said in the White House on his final moments in the White House, what he said to the staff and what he said to the country, because the country was watching. What he said to the world, because the world was watching. That hate will destroy you. You will lose yourself in it. That was an honest statement. It was an honest moment. Because that's the truth. Hate will destroy you. Rage will destroy you. We have a country that is just on opposite poles. Families can't talk to each other. Friends can't talk to each other because you voted for somebody else, or you're thinking of voting for this guy or thinking of voting for that. I mean, this country is on edge. And this president does not get it. He is not rising to the occasion. Even if some of the policies that he wants to talk about might be more in the right direction than Joe Biden, the way he conducts himself. People are sick and tired of it. Can this country tolerate another 4 years of this? This is why I asked the question weeks ago. Who would you rather have? What scenario would you rather have? What would you be more comfortable with? Would you rather see a President Trump in the White House and the Democrats in control of the House and the Senate, or would you rather have a President Biden and the Republicans in control of the House and the Senate? Because sometimes, historically speaking, a divided government in this country does some good. Does some good, because you also have to understand this thing called the Constitution, and the President of the United States is not the King of the United States. That's why he is called the President and not the King. You see, there's different words, different definitions. You understand this? Very simple. Very simple, but people don't seem to understand that because they think that the president is the panacea for everything. I got a hole in the wall. Oh, I'm going to vote for this guy. He'll fix it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So what would you rather have? Because both of those, either one of those scenarios is a possibility. Despite this shit show, President Trump can still win. Don't kid yourself. He didn't lose any of his base. In fact, he might have riled him up. He attacked, got some good jabs in there, interrupted, picked on the news media with Chris Wallace, went after crooked Hillary, went after Biden, went after Obama, interrupted them. They might like it. Now, the question is how many people on the fence, and we know, at least if we're going to consider the polls, if we're going to consider them accurate, there's not too many people who are undecided. Now, is the country going to want to watch the second, third debate? Maybe, maybe not. Joe Biden has already said that he will continue debating the president. He will continue to engage the American people. I haven't heard anything from the White House yet, but I'm sure comments will be made as to whether or not there will be further debates. And I imagine there will be. The second debate's supposed to be a town hall event. Now, what's going to be very interesting on that town hall event is the scenario, which I think is quite likely, of how there can be a very historic and powerful moment, not so much from President Trump or Vice President Biden, but rather from an audience participant who asks a question. A concerned citizen, just a mother or a father, who simply gets up and addresses both candidates and says, you know what, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, that first debate, and I use that term loosely, was a national disgrace. It was an embarrassment. I was ashamed to call myself an American. Furthermore, I'm a parent. And my children were assigned some homework, which I'm sure many of you have been assigned this same homework from a history class or a civics class to watch the presidential debate, because we're going to have a conversation on it in class. What were your thoughts? What were the policies that were brought up? How do you agree? How do you disagree? You know, being civil, trying to educate and have civil discourse amongst the classmates. You know, education, you know, the things it's supposed to be. So I have children. This is a national disgrace. They had a homework assignment to watch this. They were embarrassed. My children were embarrassed by what they saw, by what they heard. Embarrassed. Furthermore, they asked me and my husband and my wife some uncomfortable questions that I didn't like answering, but I had to, because they were legitimate questions based off of what we saw. Now, Mr. President, will you apologize for your performance? Mr. Biden, will you apologize for your performance? Now, of the two, I can see Mr. Biden apologizing. I can see Mr. Biden apologizing. He might do that before the next debate. Do you think Donald Trump is going to apologize for his performance? Not so certain, are you? Because the man doesn't apologize for much of anything. Why would he? He thinks he's always right. He thinks he's always the smartest guy in the room. I think that would be a powerful question. I think that would be a powerful moment. And I think Joe Biden would apologize in a heartbeat. And Donald Trump would stammer. Just like when Joe Biden was asked the question if he would accept the vote, independently verified. Yes. I mean, yes. It's so simple. So simple. Some of Joe Biden's best performance was just keeping his mouth shut and letting Donald Trump go at it with Chris Wallace or himself. I mean, both of them, you know, they stumbled, which is fine. You're on a big stage. I don't hold that against people. I give people leeway on this stuff. We're all human here. I make mistakes all the time. Say the incorrect word, use it in the wrong context. I make mistakes. We're human. Does that mean I have dementia? Does that mean that these are the early onset stages of Alzheimer's because I mispronounced some words? Or can't remember or can't recall a certain phrase and I jumble it? No. And wasn't that something too? Because before the debate today, the White House comes out and starts to, they got to pivot. Well, you know what? Joe Biden might actually be a pretty good debater. He might be better than we think. After weeks and weeks, if not months, of saying the guy can't stand up there. Well, he did. He stood up there for an hour and a half. He gave it, he took it, and he was part of the shit show. But he was not this week demented idiot that the president and his campaign wants you to believe. He held his own. And at the end, it was a very powerful close for Joe Biden because his message was get out there and vote. It was rising above it finally. Joe Biden missed a lot of opportunities during this. I mean, Joe Biden told the president to shut up, called him a clown. Those weren't good things. Those weren't good things at all. But, I mean, the rhetoric coming from the president, well, what do you expect? There's going to be some of this tit for tat. It's just going to happen when you're in that arena with most people. But Joe Biden missed a lot of opportunities to rise above it in some of those moments and to say, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Americans, do you want another 4 years of this? This country is divided. How is this doing anything to unite this country? These were the rules of the debate. Both of our campaigns agreed to these rules. Chris Wallace announced these rules to the audience. We know what they are. We're trying to have a civil discussion here. We are trying to have a presidential debate. Families are sitting around their television sets together, trying to partake in an election, trying to understand what is at risk here. What are the visions of the president and what are the visions of the Joe Biden campaign? Joe Biden could have destroyed him on that. That was his opportunity. He kind of got back to that at the end, but he missed it. Now, the good thing, because for them, for the Biden-Harris campaign, the good thing is there's still a ways to go. So they can do a lot of speeches off of this, rising to the occasion and going above and beyond that. Continuing with what I said. That do you want another 4 years of this? This is on full display. This is in your face. This is what's on the president's mind. He wants to say that the Obama-Biden administration came after him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just told you what Nixon did in his second election. Do you think that that's not a possibility? That Trump would do something similar to go after his enemy should he win re-election? Do you know what that would do to the country if that was the case? And in that potential hypothetical of Trump winning re-election and the Democrats taking the House and Senate, obviously with the majority, if that's the case, do you think the Democrats are just going to give up another impeachment trial with enough votes potentially in the Senate this time? Do you know what that would do to the country? Not just to impeach him again, but to throw him out? Do you know what that would do to the country? I don't know how many more pieces of evidence I need to show. And furthermore, with this national disgrace in our faces, is it any wonder why a significant portion of the population in this country who is of voting age, why they don't vote? Why they don't think it makes a difference? I mean, it's not that hard to put together. It's not that hard to put together. It's going to be interesting to see. We already know that gun sales and ammunition sales have been going up. I would almost like to see the exact numbers that go up over the next week. Because stand back and stand by. We know what that means. I mean, come on, get real. Unbelievable. I don't know. Maybe I should take up violin lessons so I can play the fiddle while the United States of America burns, just like Nero did in Rome. You know, maybe that's why he played the fiddle. Maybe there was a presidential debate. There was a Caesar debate before, and he didn't like it. And he just wanted to play the fiddle. Because what the hell, why not? Might as well have some music while it's burning. Little Caesar's pizza. Who knows? This is the Banana Republic. It's time for a revolution on so many different fronts. It's time for a declaration of independence from this monstrosity of a banana republic. This is not a constitutional republic. This is not free market capitalism. This is not the United States of America. I don't care what it says on your tax bill. I don't care what it says on your currency that's folded up in your pocket. I don't care. This is not the United States of America. It's not even close. Not even close. How this type of rhetoric and action can be supported is beyond me. And I'm talking about both parties. It's on full display. Full display. Debate number 1, a national disgrace in the books. My God, I can't wait for round number 2. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Kapital News. I am Alex Koritis. Godspeed.